Hello, this is the Generally Bad Gamer Jolly, and I'm back again to talk more about the Bladeborn Fighters in 2nd Edition. Primarily, this time I want to talk about Tome of Champions 2021 Blade Fighters from the Destruction Grand Alliance. So let's go ahead and jump on in and see kind of what we have with those Tome of Champion 2021 profiles, with how they compare with the new 2nd Edition profiles of the generic fighters from those factions and those warbands. First, we have Czarbags Gits. So, this was one of the very first things I bought to go with Warcry because I was excited about just getting a variety of models. I bought them before their Bladeborn rules even came out because they had a bunch of stuff that you could use in the game at that point. And then when the rules came out for them, I was really ecstatic. So let's check and see kind of how they look now in the 2nd edition landscape with their, what we would say, 1st edition rules that are usable. So first of all, if you're going to buy Zarbag's Gits, it's going to be pretty pricey. They are no longer on sale on GW's website or from GW directly. So you would have to go to eBay or a third party. eBay, I found them no cheaper than this $149 with $20 shipping. So we're looking at $170 for Zarbag's Gits. So they're going to have to do some pretty damn amazing things to be worth that price tag. So what we're looking at here, this is Zarbag's Gits stats, the stats for his whole warband from the Tome of Champions 2021, and there were several of them that were pretty good. Snurk, Sour Tongue up there, the Goblin Fanatic, he was really awesome because Fanatics weren't in the game yet. So we'll get to see how he does, and then just kind of some of the other takes. The other take on Squig Herder, Shooters, Netters, and then Zarbag himself. So first thing we have is Zarbag. The closest comparison I could find for him was the Fungoid Cave Shaman. They have a very similar set of attack profiles. They both have that mage attack, which, as always, is meh in my book. They have a similar melee profile, but the Cave Shaman has a slightly better damage output with a 2 base damage. And they have exactly the same movement, toughness, and hit point profile. So what we're looking at then is for a slightly worse melee profile just from stats, Zarbag is 20 points more. So that's not starting off well for him. Now he's losing the Cave Shaman's ability. I don't remember what it is right off the bat, but it wasn't very impressive from what I remember. I could be wrong on that, though. I forgot to put it in my video, so I'm not sure. So I'm focusing mainly on our Zarbag's Gits. Our Zarbag's abilities from Zarbag's Gits. There we go. Worth 20 points over the Fungoid Cave Shaman. So what we have is we have his double. Face of the Bad Moon. Pick a visible enemy fighter within 9 inches of this fighter. That is within 1 inch of a friendly fighter, so that's engaging one of your friendly fighters. The enemy must make a bonus disengage action, and I can't talk tonight. If they cannot, then they take some damage. So you have to look at it as 20 points worth this ability, because you're paying 20 points over the Cave Shaman for this ability. I like the ability a lot. I think it is niche. It's not always going to be useful, but it is interesting that it forces a disengage. I do like that. I don't know if it's worth 20 points, but I can't say it's not going to win you some games sometime. I just don't think it's going to win you a lot of games a lot of the times. So I would say overall, Zarbag himself is not the reason to pick up this really expensive set, but if you have him, he could be a good option to go with to try his ability. Next, we have the Squid Herder, or Drizzgot the Squig Herder, is what we're comparing him to. So this is where we start getting into kind of laughable territory. Drizzgot is literally double the points of a normal Squig Herder at 110 versus 55. Their melee attack profiles are Drizzgot's definitely got the better one. He's got a 2-inch reach versus a 1-inch reach. He's got 1 higher strength, and he's got 1 point on damage and crit. So far, that's interesting. Not worth double points at the moment, though. We look at the other stats, and Drizzgot also wins out here with both their movements being 4, but Drizzgot has 1 point more of toughness and double the hit points. So as far as stats are going, he's looking pretty good, but he's still not looking probably 55 points good for a squig herder, because if you're taking a squig herder, you're probably taking him for the triple, which they both have access to triple that gives a free movement to a squig. Though I don't think that triple is very useful because you have to take squigs also, which we'll talk about that here in a bit, but I'm not sure squigs are super good. They're playable, but I don't know if it's worth 55 extra points for a slightly tougher, by slightly tougher, considerably tougher squig herder. Overall, I don't think he's worth double the points, and so far he's definitely not making it worth the purchase of about $170 for this Bladeborn warband. Next, we have Progdanetta. Progdanetta is nothing but pure upgrade to a normal Netta. So we're looking at a better attack profile with 1 more strength, but that doesn't matter much because if your Netta's in combat, it's probably going to die soon anyway. But then defensively, we do have 4 more hit points. So that's nice. 4 hit points adds a considerable amount of survivability, especially when we're looking at, for the slightly better melee profile and the 4 more hit points, you're also 5 points cheaper than the normal Netta. So Prog is just a no-brainer, fantastic upgrade to a normal Stabo of Barbed Net. If you have him, you definitely run him over a normal netter. There's no reason to. Even if you have 5 extra points, you don't take the normal netter, just because Prog is a straight up better. But one better Netta, worth $170, still not so far. So let's keep on going. Snurk Sour Tongue, we're comparing him to Loon Smasher Fanatic. Now, if we look at their profiles, they both have a 3-inch reach. Snurk has 4 attacks, 4 strength. The Loon Smasher Fanatic has 3 attacks of 4 strength, so Prog is winning. Prog also wins out the damage profile with 3-6 compared to 2-5. So Snurk has a much better melee attack profile, and it's one that people will be pretty scared of. 4 attacks, 4 strength, a 3 range with 3-6 damage. It's going to make a lot of people nervous. The Loon Smasher Fanatics isn't bad, but it's not going to make them nearly as nervous. Let's go to the rest of the profile. So the Loon Smasher Fanatic has a 1-up with 1 extra movement, 2 extra toughness, but is 4 hit points down. So we're looking at survivability is probably not as good for the Loon Smasher Fanatic. You're looking at crits are still doing crit thing, and 1 big crit or 2 small crits will kill the Loon Smasher Fanatic. Against Chaff, the Loon Smasher might be a bit more survivable with that 5 toughness. The extra point of movement on the Fanatic is nice, but I don't think it's enough to make Snurk not desirable. Snurk, you're a sexy beast, and we all recognize that. So for 15 points more, I think Snurk is well worth it for the stats. Now, when we're looking at the abilities, that's when the Loon Smasher kind of is looking nice. With the triple, the one that gives a free movement of up to double the value of the dice, and then deals that value damage to the target within 1 inch, the Loon Smasher's ability is really nice. I think it's better than Snurk's. Snurk has a quad, which is a standard allocate damage equal to the value of the ability to all visible enemy fighters within 3 inches. It's nice, but it's a quad. Don't count on it. It can turn some games, though. So I think the abilities are a little bit of leaning towards the Loon Smash. I think the Loon Smash is just better. However, I would say that Snurk is completely usable, and he is kind of a psychological weapon because of how his damage profile looks. I think he's well worth the 15 points. I think he even adds a little bit. If you're wanting to run several Fanatic type models, you run 1 or 2 Loon Smasher Fanatics and then Snurk to kind of be their champion. You could probably have some fun with that. I don't know how good of a list it'll be, but could be fun. And I know people like the Loon Smasher Fanatics just as kind of like a character-driven model. So Snurk, you're good in my book. Not as good as Progdanetta, but you're still a solid, sexy beast. Next, we have the Cave Squigs. Now, the Cave Squigs got some massive downgrades in second edition, but they also got a huge point reduction. So, if we're looking at their profiles, the Czarbags Get Squig is heads and tails better than the Cave Squig. Extra attack, extra point of strength, better base damage. If we look at the rest of the profile, Zarbag's Get Squig still wins out. It's same movement, same toughness, and Zarbag's Squig has 6 more hit points. Now, the problem is that we're looking at, what is it, 65 more points? 65 points more for a better attack profile and 6 more hit points. But that is a lot of points, 65 points. So you could go a Cave Squig and a Stab of Barb Net and still be 10 points cheaper. So if you're wanting to run Squigs, you're better off probably just running multiple normal Cave Squigs for just slightly more points than Zarbag's Squigs are. But I'm not so sure Squigs in either realm are really all that great. If you're looking at Cave Squig plus Squig Herder, so both of them together still 10 points cheaper than the normal Zarbag Squig, that's probably going to be a better combination just because your Squig will have a little more movement, you'll have an extra body. I just don't think the Zarbag's Squigs are worth it at all. They are definitely not making me feel like this $170 price tag on the Warband is worth it. And I don't know if I would take them at all, much less over the normal Cave Squigs. So then that means we're last up on the list with the Shootas. Now, a normal Shoota now in second edition is 75 points. Their range profiles are exactly the same between them and Zarbag's Shootas. So it's the same there. The melee profile on Zarbag Shootas is slightly better with 1 point more strength. Once again, if your Shoota's in melee, they're probably going to die soon, and you either they're getting wrecked or you use them to just be a tar pit for a turn. Now, once again, when we go to the rest of the profile, movement's the same, toughness the same at 3. Zarbag Shootas do have 4 more hit points. So we're looking at a slightly better melee profile and 4 more hit points for 10 points. This could be worth it. If you have Zarbag's Gets already, and you've got the 10 extra points and you're trying to decide where to put it, upgrading one of the normal Shootas to a Zarbag Shoota could be good, because 4 more hit points means they'll be around a bit longer. You take 2 crits from an enemy ranged unit, and Zarbag's Gets will still be around. So I would say that they are... They could be worth it if you already have them, but they are not worth buying it for, is what I would say. So what we're looking at overall is Zarbag could be equal to or less than the Cave Shaman. Depends on how much you want to try out that double. I do like the double. I don't know if I like... I definitely don't like the double all the time as just a consistent. I'm always going to take him over a Cave Shaman. Drizzgot, the Squig Herder, flat out worse. I don't like him. Double the points, not worth anything that we have on him. Progdanetta, straight up better. He's just straight upgrade for cheaper points than the normal Barbonetta. Snurk, Sour Tongue, I think he's better or equal to the Loon Smasher Fanatic, and it's kind of just coming down to, do you want access to that triple, or do you want the scarier melee model? I think they're both fine to take, and actually, like I said, taking both of them in the same list could lead to a really fun list. The Squigs, if you really like Squigs, you want a tougher Squig, could be worth it. Overall, I have to say, though, that they're not worth it overall over the normal Squigs. And the Shootas, about the same. If you have the extra points, why not pay 10 more points for 4 more hit points? But otherwise, there's no reason to really take them over a normal Shoota, because they both fill the role pretty well the same. So overall, Zarbag's Gets not worth $170. If I found them for close to the normal retail price of between $30, $40, I'd probably pick them up, just because there are some fun models and a couple models that are good in here, but nowhere near that $170 price tag. Next, we have Mulligans Mob. And first of all, so excited that Mullig is fully legal now. Like, best day ever when that FAQ came out and I read that the 2021 Tome of Champion Bladeborn fighters are definitely legal, because that means Mullig is back on the table. Now, I'm going to run Mullig, but we'll discuss whether it's a good decision to run Mullig. I'm just a big Mullig fan. So, Mulligans Mob, we're looking at about $100 is the cheapest I was able to find it on eBay. He's not on sale on GW's website anymore, so he is out of print. So is he worth $100 to buy? That's the question we're asking. So now for Mullig the Mighty, we're also going to look at his abilities, because looking at his stats and his point cost, I don't think those alone he's worth it. I'm going to say it right now, the Bat Squig is not worth the points. So I would never take the Bat Squig. The Bat Squig looks cool. I can't ever justify taking him. He's just a big point sponge, and he doesn't add nearly enough to make it worth it. But Mullig himself. So the closest thing we could compare Mullig to is going to be the Dankhold Trogoth. Now, this is the old profile before they had the points increase. So with the old profile before the points increase, we were looking at 280 versus 330, and it was tough to justify Mullig then. But the Dankhold Trogoth has gone up about 100 points, I believe it was. I think he is up to 375 or 380. He is now a hefty amount of points more than Mullig. And now we can start to compare them to see if Mullig is useful or good compared to the Dankhold Trogoth. When the Dankhold Trogoth is between 370 and 380 points. Sorry, I didn't prepare the best for this video overall now that I'm starting it. But we're looking at about 40 to 50 points more for the Dankhold. So they're melee attack profiles. So they both have a 2-inch reach. Mullig has 2 attacks, Dankhold has 3. That's looking kind of not good for Mullig there, because just 2 attacks is always a little sad. The strength, Mullig has a 1-up on strength of 6 versus 5. Once again, in most cases, 6 versus 5 isn't going to be a huge difference. Mullig does scare Stormcast Eternals a good bit more, though. And then we look at the damage profiles. So the Dankhold Trogoth starts out at 4-8. Really nice. 3 attacks. But as he takes damage, he goes down. He goes all the way down to 2-4 damage. His last 15 hit points or so, his damage is not even close to good for his points cost. And Mullig keeps his 5-10 damage profile his entire 35 hit points. I have to say that Mullig wins out on this. He's going to be a little erratic with only 2 hits, because if you only hit once, it's 5 damage, big chunk of damage for 1 hit, but not going to end anything really. 2 hits will end any chaff, and the threat of a crit is just frightening. So Mullig has the huge psychological factor going on that nobody really wants to try taking hits from a 5-10 model. Nobody wants to take hits from a 4-8 damage model either, but if you soften him up some, the Dankhold becomes less scary. So I give this one to Mullig, especially for being less points. Now we look at the rest of the profile. The Dankhold starts out at a movement point faster. After 21 points of damage, that does go down to Mullig's movement, and then last 5 hit points, it goes even lower. So the Dankhold wins out on that because he's faster when it matters, getting to places. Mullig is tougher at 5 toughness versus 4 toughness of the Dankhold, so Mullig will be able to take hits better, and the Dankhold has 10 more hit points, with it having 45 and Mullig having 35. So we're looking at a 10 hit point difference. I say, I mean, when you're looking at all the different things, okay, so what else do we have? We got to look at other things too. The Dankhold Trogoth has the Dragon Maul ability, which is a phenomenal ability that monsters have. And one of the big reasons why probably all of them got a big points increase, and not just the Chimera getting a points increase. Dragon Maul is phenomenal, and it's a triple. So the Dankhold Trogoth has that. The Trogoth's other 3 abilities are a bit lackluster, and not super useful overall. They're abilities you can use, but meh. You're also looking at the Dank Hold. With it being a monster, it will activate 3 separate times during your turn, with 1 action each, so it does get an extra action over Mullig. Mullig's abilities, though, I like 2 of the abilities that he has a lot. He's got a double, which is kind of like a ranged attack, which is mad, whatever. You need to try to couple points of damage on something that's 6 inches away that you can't reach, go for it. It's not exciting. Then he's got Summon Stalaggsquig. So this one is just one. It's I like it for a double. It's a trap. You put it down, and when something moves close to it, they will take 2d6 damage points. So it's a way to dissuade enemies from going to a certain spot. Probably won't keep them from going to it if it's important, but it'll soften them up on their way there. So it's not bad. Now, Mullig's triple, I love. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Summon Spite Shroom. So you pick a point within 3 inches of Mullig and more than 1 inch away from an enemy, and you place his Spite Shroom counter, the model that comes with Mulligans Mob. And then it's there for the rest of the game. It can't be interacted with, it can't be gotten rid of. And for the rest of the game, when enemies are within 6 inches of it, they lose 1 attack on their attack dice. So that is phenomenal. I love it. I think it is heads and tails better than any other triples that do a similar thing, because once you use it, it's there, and it's there then from the beginning of each battle round from that point forward. So there's no killing the model to get rid of it. There's no, if I attack before them, they won't have it. It's just there. And it can be great and phenomenal in places where you're trying to control points. I've used Mullig several times, and this ability has been a great way to kind of alleviate only having 2 attacks, because somebody's going to be a lot less likely to want to trade blows with you if they go from 4 to 3 attacks and they're looking at a 2-4 or 2-5 damage profile, and you have a 5-10. So his triple is phenomenal. I'm definitely running Mullig. I love Mullig. I love the model. I love the feel of the model. I love the way he plays. I'm running him. Is he worth, and I'm saying he worth because you will be playing him. The the bat squig is garbage, and his other 2 models are just kind of stand-ins for his abilities. I don't think he's worth $100 to pick up unless you really, 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 really love Mullig. I don't know if I love him $100 worth, to be honest. If I wouldn't have gotten him before he went out of print, I would probably not be picking him up, though I probably would be finding a proxy for him. Since I have him, I am definitely running him. I think he is a little bit better than Dankhold Trogoth. And I think he's at worst on even terms with the Dankhold. Because he doesn't have the downsides of being a monster either. So I like him. Overall, I say Mullig is better than or equal to the Dankhold. And like I said with the Bat Squig, we're not even discussing the Bat Squig. He's garbage. Don't take him. Paint him up. Make him look nice. Put him on your shelf. Use him as a decoration. He's cool looking. Don't play him in game. Next we have Ripas Snarlfangs. So this is interesting because we got these a long time ago. Goblins on wolves. And we just got some Snarlfangs for Age of Sigmar, but they don't have rules yet. So we can't compare these to what the Age of Sigmar equivalent when they come in the Warcry will be, because we don't have any information on those whenever, if they probably will at some point, but whenever they get stats for Warcry. But before we get into that, we're starting to get a little cheaper with stuff I can find on eBay. $57.50, so we'll round it up to $60. $60 for Snarlfangs Ripas, or Ripas Snarlfangs. There we go. I'm trying to read that description down there and get it mixed up. So $60. Are they worth $60? So what we have for Ripas Snarlfangs are fast-mounted units. So the closest thing currently that we have to compare them to is going to be Boingrot Bounders and Spider Riders, depending on which one we're looking at over here, because those are kind of our equivalent of mounted, though Bounders and Riders, Spider Riders, aren't mounted units, so they already have a little bit of an advantage over the Ripas Snarlfangs in that they can climb. Without needing stairs, that is. So Ripa, we're going to look at him first. Ripa Narkbad. So let's compare him to the Boingrot Bounder, because I think that's the closest profile we have for comparison. So the Boingrot Bounder has a 2-inch reach versus Ripa's 1. Ripa has 1 more attack, 1 less strength, and 1 less crit. So overall, we could say they're really similar and both have an advantage. One with having the extra reach, one with having the extra attack profile. So those are kind of wash. We'll just call those equal points. Then we have the rest of the profile. They both have 8 movement. Ripa has 4 toughness. The Bounder has 5. Ripa has 22 hit points. The Bounder has 15. So Ripa does have 7 hit points more. So that's looking good. Ripa has Fangs Jaws, which is just a double that has a potential to do a little bit of extra damage up close. Nothing amazing. And a quad that is basically the charge. And that quad is terrible. That's normally a charge type ability that you get for a triple on a unit. So it being a quad is just crap. So we can't consider the quad. The Fangs Jaws, where the Boingrot Bounder has Fly, easily better than either of those 2 abilities, and it's a static ability. And also that ability to get a bonus move equal to double the value of the die, and then damage. So it's a better Ferocious Pounce. Just in every way, it's better than Ferocious Pounce, and it's a triple. So for phenomenally better abilities, both a static and a triple versus Ripa's 2 lackluster abilities, the Boingrot Bounder is 10 points more. So what you're looking at is, do you want the phenomenally better abilities and 7 less hit points for 10 points more, or do you want the more survivable guy with 7 hit points? I say Ripa is either equal to or less than the Boingrot Bounder. Definitely not worth buying Ripa Snarlfangs for so far, because I think the Boingrot Bounder easily fills the same niche and a lot of times will be better than Ripa. So we're going on to Mean Eye. Mean Eye has a ranged attack. So we're going to compare Mean Eye to a Spider Rider, because they also have a ranged attack. Now, Mean Eye's range attack is better, with 3 inches more range and also 1 point more crit. So that makes his offensive capabilities tons better. We don't even care too much about the melee profile. I guess the Spider Rider having the better melee profile, we do care about it on it. Mean Eye, you know what? For that many points, we do care about the melee profile a bit. Spider Rider just has the better melee profile completely. Extra inch of reach, extra attack, extra point of strength, more crit. So Spider Rider blows Mean Eye out of the water as far as melee profile goes. Now we look at the rest of the profile. 8 move on Mean Eye, 10 on Spider Rider. Spider Rider's winning. Spider Rider has more toughness. Spider Rider's winning. Spider Rider has 3 less hit points. Mean Eye's winning. So the Spider Rider is 15 points more. Has a lesser range profile, a considerably better melee profile, better movement, isn't mounted, and also better toughness, but 3 less hit points. 15 points more. If you have Mean Eye already, I could see wanting to use him over the Spider Rider just because of the better range harassment. But 130 points for quick range harassers sometimes a little rough. The few extra hit points helps, and Mean Eye being less helps a lot. So I'd say Mean Eye is equal to about equal to the Spider Rider. So that's kind of a wash. I could see running either one, depending on preference and kind of what your boards normally look like. If there's lots of vertical terrain, Spider Rider is definitely better. If you play with not as much vertical terrain, Mean Eye could be really good. A little bit of wash, Mean Eye maybe being a little less. Then we have Stab It. Stab It, we're just comparing to the Boingrot Bounder again because we don't have anything else to compare him to. Now, Stab It has the same range, same number of attacks, 1 less strength, and 1 less on hit and crit damage than the Boingrot Bounder. So not looking good for Stab It right off the bat. The hit points, we're looking at 3 more hit points than the Boingrat Bounder. Same movement, but Stabit's mounted, of course. And 2 less toughness. So when we're looking at stats alone, Stabit is losing. However, then we look at points. Stabit is 115 versus the Boingrat Bounder's 190. I think in this case, Stabit is completely worth it if you have it. If you need somebody who's fast, who has more hit points, which, let's face it, the Gits need models to have hit points because in 2nd edition, they got hit pretty hard, down to 6 hit points on most of their mooks. So the 18 hit points is really nice. So you're looking at high movement, pretty good hit points, and he can also stay out of that 1-inch engagement. So for that 115 points, I think Stabit is definitely worth it. Now, overall, if you don't own Ripas Snarl Fangs, I don't know if they're worth buying for, what was it, $60 is what it was. But if you have them, they are some options you can consider. Ripa and Minai, sure, you can consider them. They can be equivalent or possibly less than their counterparts. So if you have them, they're worth considering. Stabit, I think Stabit's definitely worth it, just because you have a fast unit with 18 hit points. So once again, consider you run lots of vertical terrain, because Stabit can't climb without stairs. But I wouldn't pay $60 for this set. I would probably just buy a regular Snarl Fangs box and do some conversions and stand-ins to use a couple of these models, maybe. Rothgorn's Man-Trappers. So Rothgorn. We are going back in price now. Cheapest I was able to find, and he did seem to be in print on GW's website, was a little over $100. For a little over $100, he's going to have to do some super amazing things. So let's see what he does. So Rothgorn himself is most comparable to an Icebrow Hunter. Now, the interesting thing here is we pretty much get a completely different model as far as why we would want him than an Icebrow Hunter. Talking is so difficult on Saturday evenings. But what we're looking at is Rothgorn himself has a super scary range profile. 3-9 range, not a long range. 2 attacks, not great attacks. Strength 6, phenomenal strength, and then 4-8 damage. That is one of those range attacks that is going to make people scared. And that range attack is going to impact games, which is good because he's 300 points. His melee attack profile then is far less impressive for the 300 points. 3 attacks, 4 strength, 2-4 damage. And when we look over at the Icebrow Hunter, we pretty much got those flipped. The Icebrow Hunter's range attack has no minimum range, but 1 less inch max range, and it's got the 2-4 damage profile, and his melee profile has the 4-8 damage. So we have this kind of flip on stats, and it's interesting, because depending on what we want to do with our Icebrow Hunter, we could take either Rothgorn or the generic Icebrow. Now, the rest of their profile is the exact same. 4 move, 4 toughness, 40 hit points. And I believe they have really similar abilities too. They both have the one that can move a beast, I believe. And Rothgorn also but Rothgorn will benefit from another model. So we'll go over that here in a minute. I think they're kind of on equal footing. You pay 20 points more for Rothgorn, but I think he's perfectly worth running if you want something who's going to make people really sweat within his range attack range. So I'd say he's equal to the Icebrow Hunter if that's what you're wanting to run. Now, Throfnir versus a Frost Saber. And I think this is one of those cases where Throfnir is just better. So we look at the profiles, same attack profile. We look at the rest of the profile, same movement, same toughness. Throfnir has 6 more hit points for the same 175 point profile. And they're both beasts, so they both have access to the exact same abilities. Throfnir is just better. If you're taking a Frost Saber and you have access to Throfnir, run Throfnir. If you have just a normal generic Frost Saber, just say his name is Throfnir and run him as Throfnir. It's just better. 6 more hit points for the same point cost. Yeah, let's do it. Now we're going on to the Noblars. Now, we're going to compare all the Noblars to our normal Noblar profile, because that's the only Noblar profile we have, the generic world. So, Lugget and Thwack. We're looking at 20 more hit points than a normal Noblar. Now, we do have a 2-inch reach versus a 1-inch reach. One more strength, one more crit. Okay, looking all right. Not 20 points all right so far. But then when we look at the rest of the profile, same move, same toughness, double the hit points, 12 versus 6 on Lugget and Thwack. I think that could make them worth it. If you have those extra hit points and you want something that's going to be a bit more survivable, well, actually considerably more survivable than a normal Noblar at 12 versus 6, he's going to last a lot longer in most cases. I think Lugget and Thwack can be worth it. Uh, it's not something you're probably going to intentionally take, but you're working with ogres, so you're going to sometimes have weird points left over. You very well might have 20 to 30 points just sitting there you're like, I can't do anything with. So upgrade one of those Nobblers to a Lugget and Thwack, and I do consider it an upgrade for the 20 points. Whoops, I went too far ahead, accidentally clicking buttons. That's fine. Let's pretend I didn't actually put all my pluses, minuses, and equals up there yet, and we're talking like everything's a surprise. Next, we have Bushwhacker. Bushwhacker, just better. Bushwhacker is the same melee profile, 2 more hit points and 5 points less. So once again, it's kind of like Progdanetta. Bushwhacker is just worth it. Take Bushwhacker over the normal Noblar, and then consider Lugget and Thwack just a 15-point upgrade over normal Noblar. Yeah. And then Quiv. Quiv is, once again, I think just better than, or maybe if you're cynical, equal to a normal Noblar. He has an extra 1-inch reach, 1 less attack, which will help with survivability. So not as much damage potential, but he does have an extra crit also. And he's got 2 more hit points for the exact same amount of points. I think Quiv is well worth it. And if you're taking Rothgorn, you should be taking Quiv. Because Quiv has a triple that lets Rothgorn just do another range attack with that super scary, make me sweaty, palm sweaty, mom spaghetti, all that stuff profile. So I think Rothgorn's Man Trappers overall are really good. If you have them, try running them if you run ogres. If you don't have them, the $100 price tag is too much, I would still say. You can still get other awesome ogre models out there, but if you have them, definitely try them out. I think they're pretty nice in the second edition landscape. Going on to orcs, and I'm just going to prelude all the orc talk with it doesn't look good for the orcs overall. Any of them. And we'll go over why. But Headcracker's Mad Mob. Headcracker's Mad Mob is affordable because he is still available on the GW website for $38. If you do order from GW, remember if you have a GW store close to you, you could have products that you order shipped to GW stores for free, so you don't have to pay for shipping. If not, I think it's $60 or over. You can get free shipping in a lot of places. So you might want to see if there's something else, so that way you're just not paying shipping cost. But yeah, you can still buy them. So that's looking good for Headcracker's Mad Mob so far, $38. Let's see if they're worth $38. Well, the models themselves are fantastic. So if you like orc models, they might just be worth that price tag just for that. But gameplay wise, let's see. Bone Splitters. So we see we got a little bit of my shadow in there. I was trying to take some decent pictures the other day with my phone camera, and this is what we ended up with. But we have Headcracker, Gob of Gork. Headcracker is most comparable to a Morgoc Prophet. If we look at that price, the points for both of them, though, we see that Headcracker is a ridiculous amount more points. 70 points more. 70 points more. That is a lot. That's a lot more. They have the exact same melee they have the exact same attack profiles, ranged and melee. So you're not getting 70 points out of that. We look at the rest of the profile, same move, same toughness. Headcracker has 4 more hit points. Well, I'll tell you what, if 2 hit points isn't worth 20 points, 4 hit points isn't worth 70 points. So far, Headcracker not looking good, man. Not looking good. What we do have for Headcracker is he has access to the exact same abilities that the War God Prophet has. So a triple that reduces the amount of attacks the enemies will receive while within 6 inches of them by 1. So they get 1 less attack. So that's good. He has that. He doesn't lose any abilities. And he's got 2 extra abilities. 1 extra ability. 2 extra abilities. Yeah. I had to look and see real quick. An eye for weakness, which I think is interesting. I like it. It looks cool. I don't think it looks 70 points cool. But you pick a visible enemy fighter within 12 inches, and until the end of the battle round, all crits do 3 points more damage to that guy. Could be fun. But once again, you're relying on crits, so it's all the luck of the dice. But if you get a couple crits of this ability on something, it could help drop something really quick. Not worth 70 points yet, though. Quad, Bone Crusher. All right, so what we're going to say is a quad is never worth planning to have, but they're always a nice thing. So let's see if this is something that is going to be useful over Rampage. So Bone Crusher, pick a visible enemy fighter within 12 inches of this fighter and roll a number of dice equal to the value of this ability. For each 2+, allocate 3 damage points to that fighter. If the enemy is within 3 inches of Headcracker, it's 5 points per hit for each 2+, as opposed to 2+. This quad can deal a crap ton of damage. It's a nice quad. I can see using it over Rampage. Just because you could guarantee lots of damage if you have a high value. And it's a range attack. It could be a pretty high damage range attack too. It's a quad though. The quad and that triple, while both pretty cool abilities, I don't think it's really worth 70 points more. I will probably try Headcrack at some point, just to see how having a guy who is ability dice hungry works. I don't think it'll work well because ability dice are really limited. But I have to say, if we're going off of playability so far, Headcracker is not making $38 look worth it. Sweet model. But yeah, so far, not looking too great. Tooth Dagger. Tooth Dagger is comparable to a Savage Orc Morboy. So when we look at him, Tooth Dagger has 1 extra attack, 1 extra crit, but 1 less base damage. So Tooth Dagger is still looking pretty good on the offensive. As far as the rest of the profile, same move, same toughness. Tooth Dagger has 1 more hit point. And we're looking for 10 points more for a melee attack profile that favors Tooth Dagger a little bit, 1 more hit point. If you have him, run him. I would say Tooth Dagger is equivalent to a Savage Orc Morkboy. Points can be tough with Savage Orc sometimes, so that 10 extra hit points might make a difference. So I would say equal to or less. Could be fun to run. He's a really sweet looking model, so that gives him bonuses. I'll try him at some point too, but I don't think he is adding to the make me wanna buy the models more scenario. Wallop the Skull. Wallop the Skull, I believe, is also just comparable to his Savage Orc Morkboy. Morboy. Why are they called Morboys, not Morkboys? Morkboys would be so much cooler. But Wallop has 1 inch more reach, same attack, 1 more strength, and 1 more crit. So Wallop's damage profile is just better, straight up better than a Savage Orc Morboy's profile. Same move, same toughness, 1 hit point more on Wallop. We're looking at 25 points more. Now it's getting a little rough. For 25 points more, I don't think it's worth it, especially when we have the Savage Orc Morboy Bone Totem Bearer. For 5 points less, we get an extra point of reach. We lose a point of crit and a point of strength, but we also gain access to Beast Spirit Juju. And up in the toughness of everybody within 6 inches of the Totem Bearer for a double is really good, especially with most of the Savage Orcs, most of the Bone Splitters being a 3 toughness. Wallop the Skull's not worth it over a Totem Bearer. You might be able to argue against a normal Warboy, but he's definitely not worth it over a Totem Bearer. Regardless of how cool he is, if it's 2-handed axe. That totem just got the reach on him. So then we're looking at Daco Sharpsticker. And Daco, of course, is comparable to an Auric Arrow Boy. So Daca's 5 points more, 1 more hit point, 1 more point of crit on the range attack profile, and 1 more point of crit on the melee attack profile. Melee attack profile, When my Arrow Boys are in combat, I know they're going downhill. I only take probably 1 Arrow Boy at most. For 5 points more, sure, he can be equal to. I've had a couple times recently when I've been running Bone Splitters and I've had an extra 5 to 20 points I couldn't do anything with. So I would definitely upgrade a normal Arrow Boy to Daco just for the little bit of extra chance to get an extra point damage if a crit. I don't think any of the models from Headcracker's Mob, though, make it worth necessarily going out and buying them, even for only $38. Now, like I said, if you love the models, buy them for the models. I think I'm going to try running a couple of these. Tooth Daga and Daco could be worth running, especially if you got the extra points sitting around. Wallop, I can't see ever really running Wallop over a Totem Bearer. Headcracker, I'll try him, but I don't have high hopes for him because abilities in Warcry, you got to have the dice for them. And if you have 80 awesome abilities, it doesn't do you any good because you're not going to use 80 awesome abilities in any given turn. Overall, I would say I accidentally closed things out. Oh, that's a shame. Well, there we go. All right. So overall, we're back to it. And let me refix things. So now we get to see all the stuff that I've been doing here. Quick sidetrack while we're doing things. I've been doing a lot of War Masters, so I've been 3D printing a lot of stuff. And yeah, we're back. So my little side talk, War Master, awesome game, War Master Revolution. Look it up. I'll do some videos on it soon. All right, now that we're back from my technical difficulties and talking problems, yeah, Headcracker, not worth it overall. I'm going to try him at some point though because he looks cool. Tooth Dagger, possibly worth it to not worth it. Wallop the Skull, I said kind of equal if we're looking at just a normal Moorboy, but definitely below a Totem Bearer. And Daco Sharpsticka, equal to or below in that he's not worth 5 points more on his own, but if you have 5 points extra, he's definitely worth upgrading because the extra point crit is all right for the extra 5 points. All right, Morgoc's Crushes. So we're down to our two Iron Jaws factions here. Morgocs and other one we'll get to here in a minute. I don't remember because, as we'll find out here soon, as cool as the models are, their stats and capabilities in second edition are going to be very forgettable. So first of all, we're looking at $140 for Morgoc's Crushes, the cheapest I could find them. As cool as those models look, I would kit bash the crap out of 2 brute kits and probably have a little extra money left over versus buy this for $140. When we're looking at the abilities, Beast Basha would have been cool before monsters got their nerf. Because when they were running Supreme, that would have been nice to have had a against monster ability. It's funny that the ability was pretty much useless most of the time in first edition. Then when second edition comes out, monsters are kind of reigning supreme for a little while. Everybody's unsure we could run Morgocs. Now that we're sure we could run Morgocs, monsters have gotten nerfed, so we don't need things that are good against monsters necessarily as much anymore. So Morgoc himself is a brute boss with Big Choppa, or that's the closest equivalent we can compare him to. We're looking at his melee attack profile, I would say, is a bit better with the extra attack, because extra attack over a point of strength that the brute boss has, I think, is leading towards Morgoc. Morgoc has 5 more hit points. Morgoc is 50 points more. 50 points more. I can't ever see wanting to run Morgoc over just a brute boss with Boss Choppa, to be honest. 50 points is a lot, especially when you're working with orcs and you're already trying to free up the points to get your bodies. In first edition, that's these point costs that we're seeing on Morgoc's Crushers are reasons why Iron Jaws were sometimes tough to play. They were slow, and you couldn't get very many of them. I can't see wanting to run Morgoc over a normal brute boss with Boss Choppa. Thug! We got the same problem with Thug. We have a melee profile of Thugs is a little bit better than an Orc Brute with a pair of Brute Choppas with the extra point crit. He's only got 1 more hit point. So you're looking at an extra point crit, 1 more hit point for 35 points. Definitely not worth it. Definitely not worth it. And access to Morgoc's Crush's ability is not making up for any points at all. It just doesn't matter a lot of the times when if monsters not being as big of a threat anymore, their ability is meh, especially for a triple. 35 points more, not worth it. Not much more to say. Ard Skull. We compare Art Skull to an Orc Brute with Gore Choppa. So once again, Art Skull comes out. Well, you can say these are kind of a wash. We're looking at. Well, actually, no. I think Art Skull is actually down a little bit. Losing an attack for 1 point more strength isn't really worth it most of the time. So we're already looking at he's at a deficit. Um, and he's only got one more hit point. So his attack profile is. You can consider it worse. One more hit point, but you're looking at 15 points more. Just go with the Orc Brute of Gore Choppa. Save yourself to 15 points. Maybe get yourself another body in the long run. So overall, what we're looking at is disappointment with Morgoc's crushes, with none of them being better, in my opinion, to their equivalents in second edition. Not worth. I don't think I would run any of them. I think I would proxy them in. I'd proxy them in as generic guys because the models are cool, but I wouldn't run them as themselves. I just don't see the point. I don't see it being worth it. And they're definitely not worth buying for $140 if you don't have them yet. Iron Skulls Boys. That's what his name is. Iron Skull. I couldn't remember, but we've got it now. So Iron Skulls Boys. We're looking at still pretty pricey. A lot cheaper than Morgoc's, but we're looking at $66 because they are out of print and eBay is the only place you can go. And this is $66 for pre-assembled. If you want new out of the box, because you just like having new out of the box, you're looking at a lot more. I think it was going up $40 right after all the pre-assembled stuff. So Iron Skulls Boys, you get a look at my beautiful finger there as I was poking Iron Skull in the eyeball, taunting him because we're going to find out he's not much better than Morgoc's. But Iron Skull himself is comparable to an Ardboy boss with Ardboy Choppas. They have the exact same melee profile, and Iron Skull has 5 more hit points. We're looking at 5 more hit points for 45 points. Not worth it. Not worth it. And they're double, dead Ard, subtract 1 from the damage points allocated by each hit and critical hit. So Iron Skull is considerably more survivable, especially when we take the double into play. But 45 points is a lot. Once again, I think you're better off saving the points and going for more bodies with the orcs because you want the bodies. They're slower without their abilities. So you just want to be able to swarm more of the table. I don't think he's worth it. Bone Cutter. Both Bone Cutter and Basha, I believe, are going to be comparable to the Auric Ardboys with Ardboy Choppas. And let's just bring up the other one too, because we're kind of just doing some comparisons around. So we have Auric Ardboy with Choppas, and we have Auric Ardboy with Big Choppas. So that's kind of what we're comparing the next 3 to. So Bone Cutter. He has a damage profile, I guess, comparable to the Big Choppa. With him being slightly better with 1 point more strength. Actually, considerably better. 1 point more strength and also 1 reach on him. So his profile is definitely better than the Ardboy of Big Choppa. He has same speed, same toughness, 1 more hit point. And we're looking at 45 points more. Even with the extra reach on the melee attack, I cannot say go for Bone Cutter over the Ardboy of Big Choppa. Basha, we're looking kind of the same way. When we look at him versus the 2 types of Ardboys, he is 30 points more. And his stats do not warrant 30 points. You get exactly 1 hit point more for 30 points over the Ardboy of Big Choppa. So not worth it at all. That's horrible. Then we have Haka. Haka is comparable. Haka is the one that's comparable to the Ardboy of Choppas. He's got 1 point more crit. He's got 1 more hit point, and he's 35 points more. Not worth it. Once again, poor Iron Jaws. None of them are worth it over their generic counterparts. For the amount of points you can save by just taking the generic counterpoints, you could fit in another Ardboy. So the whole extra body is well worth it over the menial upgrades. Don't buy them. Even if you like the models, buy them, but I don't think the models are even that much more special than normal Ardboys. Hope and pray that GW resculpts Ardboys sometime soon, and then just save your money for that day when that finally happens in 2047. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. So the orcs. The orcs overall, they're not looking very good or competitive in the second edition landscape. The other factions, the ogres, the gits, they're faring better. They have usable models. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of this. Once again, this is kind of my opinion on things. And let me know what more you'd like to see as far as content goes. I've been busy lately, but I've been trying to get some more content made. I'm going to try to finish out the last two Grand Alliances soon, which we have Chaos and Death. I'll probably do Death next because it'll be considerably shorter than Chaos, and Chaos will probably be two parts like Order. And I'm also going to be starting some other types of content here soon. So check in and see what that is. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. So this is Generally Bad Gamer Jolly. Signing off for today. You have a good one. Bye.